Here's your host, Alana.
Welcome to the Alana Show, and today we have John Rourke, an incredible, amazing, inspirational, on a mission with your nonprofit, We Fund the Blue, and a new initiative, Make America Clean Again.
That's right. That's what it's about. This country is dirty, and like I told President Trump himself and Robert Kennedy.
Hold on. Before we get into that, though, I think it's prudent that people understand your background because I think it's incredibly impressive, as well as you're still doing public service on a secular level. Like a very, what I would say, like for veterans, but we'll get into that too. But yeah, give them a little background on you, and then like just how was your background influence, your passion, for law enforcement as well as the community cleanup effort, which is kind of an odd combination, but so evident. And beautiful, really.
So my background is I'm retired from the Army. I retired from the United States Army in November of 2015 after serving almost 16 years, 15 years and 7 months.
Wow.
And my father is a retired NYPD officer of 20 years. My sister is currently active. Over 20 years in law enforcement with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and before that, Bill Glade PD. Selfless service and serving the country kind of runs in my family's veins. It's in our DNA to serve. And, when you're raised by a police officer, for all those out there that know, like when your dad's a cop or your mom's a cop or sometimes both of them are police officers, you just live a life of service. You see them serving constantly, and a lot of that translates. Like you'll see people's parents are doctors, and then their kids are doctors, or parents that are lawyers, and then their kids are lawyers. So a lot of times it goes down that path. But for me, seeing my dad serving and then retiring, and then serving as the commander of the American Legion Post 271 in Tequesta for over 20 years, he just never quit serving, and that kind of an example was set for me, when I was a child, and I always looked up to my father, and my father was always serving other people. So,
and I feel like you're doing that in America, which I'm super excited to, kind of showing that service, kind of that, what was it, with the faithful heart, or, without recognition, but getting so much more done than, say FEMA would, or like a group that, should be held more accountable than anybody and would have went, out of business as a nonprofit or otherwise. Yeah. A long time ago. They wouldn't even have existed. In fact, if they knocked on anybody's door to give to FEMA, if it wasn't forcefully taken, I don't think they would have got a dime. Yeah. But I feel like with your team, the nonprofit, and your new initiative, which I'm really excited to talk about, is, no dime or time's going to waste.
Yeah, that's a fact. You made a very good point with FEMA. Like, if they were a nonprofit, or
I personally, on the Alana Show, follow John on Instagram. Is that your main one? Because there's a lot of activity there.
That's my main social media site. So, you nailed it, right? So FEMA would 100% be out of business, along with pretty much every other government agency that exists, as we're, $37 trillion in debt. So, if any business was that far in debt, they would be out of business, right?
No, you couldn't. They can't operate the way you operate. So, not you operate, but I never said that to some people, but it's, usually pretty polite because you don't know where it starts or ends, but I think it should just end and start with, people that are passionate about what they're doing. A servant's heart. That's what it is. In politics, like my dad was in office, he took a huge hit on his income and things, but he's like, I want to lower taxes and I want to make business more efficient and get less government and more police, cut down on crime at schools and streets and roads, just the basics, and get out of their way. However, now they have a bunch of bureaucracies, and hopefully with all the excitement down at D.C., we can get more people like you, which is especially on to talk about your new initiative, as well as kind of encourage people to do what you're doing, anything they're passionate about, because now's the time. I know a lot of people are fearful with all the government cuts. What am I going to do, especially if, they're put in a position where they're stuck on the government for whatever reason. And I think now's the time to say, well, what am I passionate about and what should I do? Yeah. And that's where leaders are born, and that's where they come from, and that's where the impact is. And there are challenges, but so what are the biggest challenges police departments faced due to budget cuts, and how has We Fund the Blue helped alleviate some of those struggles?
Yeah, so the biggest challenges are obviously retaining officers and recruiting new officers, right? So over the years...
Interesting. I got to stop you right there, because eventually, whether you're on this time or not or later, I want to look into it as well myself, and even have an expert on is testing officers. I mean, just all around.
Yeah.
Training. And then, you know what? Here, I'm going to let you go. Okay.
Yeah. So essentially what it is it's just officers retention, officers recruiting, and then the equipment that they're provided, right?
I don't know
all
how
of that costs
people
money.
Like you were, I mean, you're risking your life every day. And I made a joke, but it wasn't even a joke. It was like, I really don't think I could marry a police officer. Like during the riots in Minneapolis, especially if you know they're a good one. I know there are bad apples that make them all look bad, which actually I think there should be an initiative to go hunt those down, because I do see it as like, you know, a brother or sisterhood as well, because you're essentially out there protecting each other day in and day out. And there are situations that could be complicated. However, I think there are situations that were never complicated, but they're made complicated, and that ruins a life. Just as, you know, but not nearly as much as lives are saved, but for some reason the bad sticks out more than the good in life in general. You know, I mean, you think of times you've been hurt or whatever, it just tends to linger, which I think gets into it next is community involvement, and just, you know, how do you... we all know, like the riots, you know, I said, you know, if my husband was down there and they were doing that, if I was married to a police officer, I would be up there with a sniper and in prison right now, because I know he's a good guy.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't, you know, take label one, especially for due process or things like that, but then there's obviously an argument there, which should never be the case, but... It's
a tough life. I mean, my mom was
and thank you. I mean, I can't imagine being the son of, like, or daughter of one.
It's tough. It's tough to not know if your dad's going to come home or your mom's going to come home every night.
Or if you arrested somebody's parent class, or
or you could be put in danger if you arrest the wrong person in the wrong way, right? Like we've seen protesters showing up outside of police officers' homes, right? Finding out where they live, doxing them, doxing their family members, and then you have rioters and people outside of people's homes. And that's obviously a very dangerous situation. And then you have governments that want to take away qualified immunity from officers to hold them personally liable for things that happen while they're on duty. So there's all these things to attack police.
I mean, I don't know if that bothers me. Explain to me more about the immunity aspect.
Yeah, so I mean, you're protected as a law enforcement officer from being sued personally for your actions while you're taking those actions in the line of service. So
I don't think they make enough money, too, the good ones.
Obviously.
No, I mean, like at all. Like, yeah, it's hard to put a price on that, too. I think it is a passion-driven thing, and you know, I do believe mistakes happen, but I also think more care should be taken. And I think the community as citizens, the law enforcement, and all like first responders, you know, come together and say how we can improve things and kind of find out, you know, if there is any issues between, you know, say officers and individuals, or if something had taken place that potentially could have ruined or did, you know, offset like a family or life, and you know, how to approach that outside of, you know, rioting and protesting.
Yeah, I mean, they are...
Like maybe I'll sit in a room and chat.
Yeah, right. Good luck with that.
With the wall.
They are severely underpaid. You can make a good living as a police officer, but you have to work a lot of overtime hours to do so, right? So if you want to make, you know, six figures in a lot of cases, you're working 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week or more working overtime details to get to that level. But from a base pay standard, and, you know, you have to factor in the benefits that they have.
Like same with nurses. It's like you got to hit fatigue at some point.
Of course.
And then you're making... I'm working on legislation we talk about next time. I want you on a bunch of times, but because it's in depthful. But like they get those professions I see are so crucial, like to both their patients, the citizens themselves, their families, things like that. It should be one place where they were given more breaks, maybe even paid for their breaks. Like, hey, I'm going to encourage you to take some time off and then come back when you're ready.
Yeah,
you know, maybe get paid more for doing that. And then somebody hangs out there too long, then I'm sure they're going to do something really cool when they get back.
Yeah,
off.
They definitely deserve more than what they're getting from all different walks of life. I mean, without them, we're in total anarchy, right? So without law enforcement officers, like I always tell people this, like law enforcement officers cannot be drafted like military members can be. They can initiate a draft and fill up the ranks of the military. They cannot initiate a police officer draft, right? So when the police officers stop wanting to become police officers,
idea, John.
Yeah, right. When the police officers stop wanting to be police officers, Well, then what do we do then, right? So they don't have to do this job. They can do any job that they want. They're human beings just like you and me.
Don't you feel like some people are called to do something?
Of course they are. But, if it becomes bad enough to where they feel like they're not appreciated enough, they're not paid enough, or their life...
I think it was, I think that would be every day. I mean, I can't even fathom, like, what you see. And I'm not, I have very high intuition, but apparently my empathy, I don't believe in those tests anyway, is a little bit low. Just I don't want to come off crude, but... I really think that they are at that point. I mean,
they
personally.
Are. Like you started to defund the police movement. Like, so, like it's one thing to have a passion to serve and want to be a great police officer and serve your community. But when the negatives start to override that, like you getting sued personally and someone can win a lawsuit against you through crooked judges, left-leaning judges that rule in favor of, like, for instance, Daniel Penny in New York. He stopped a person that was going to attack a subway full of people, and then he is the one that's in court fighting for his life, right? It's the same thing with police officers. So if they stop someone legally and arrest them and that person dies because they're resisting or whatever the case may be, they have to shoot them because they charge them with a knife or a gun, and now they want to sue that officer personally. And if you're in a place like New York City or you're in a district like San Francisco, that police officer is going to be under fire severely through the court systems, okay? So that person in those cities...
it should be personally. Or what do you like better about? Do you prefer personal, or I'm feeling qualified immunity? But.
Police officers should not, in any way, shape, or form, be able to be sued personally by the public for actions they've taken during their line of service. Because if that becomes the case, you won't have police officers anymore. Because so many things happen in the course of a day of a police officer's life that there are numerous times that they could be sued personally.
At, like in the advancement of fund the blue and then bringing more community together with the law enforcement and kind of bridging that gap. I'm very optimistic. My dad called me a dreamer, in fact.
Yeah.
But we're finally fixing the education system.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm a little bit a part of that, but not really at all. But so what I'm thinking is long term. People are cool. They know they're law enforcement, everybody, and the community is closer. And then somebody's just a bad apple that sneaks in for whatever reason, revenge for, just angry or
happens
just has a bad day, which I do. I'm stuck on the more break thing for sure.
Every employee and every business has bad apples.
Why should the whole department be held responsible? Unless they're repeating it over and over again, then I think qualified immunity, just to protect the individual or the whole department as a whole. I guess I don't really know much.
Well, it's up to the departments. I think there should be more stringent cases or stringent rules and regulations in place to vet potential police officers.
Thank you. Yes.
There should be definitely more than what there is. I mean, they go through a lie detector test. They go through a psych eval. So there is a lot of things.
In every area, though, because I heard they weren't doing that in certain areas. Like, okay, so I look at Palm Beach and even like that. South Florida, I mean, I'm not going to make their attractive joke. Actually, when I first moved here, I thought that was pre-qualified. Anyway, moving forward.
Yeah.
But like I heard they have to take a lot more tests or more strict results or something along those lines. Whereas I think some places don't go down.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if there's like a set standard around the country for. I think every department has their way that they do things, but I believe that for every law enforcement officer, it has to take a lie detector test at a minimum and a psych eval. And if they don't, well, then they definitely need to, because that's a very important thing. And I
would think so.
Same with the military. I mean, but you also have to factor in the fact that when you make it harder for people to do these jobs, right, then you need to pay them more because you're not going to have people join. Well, so they need people to join. Right now, people are not wanting to become police officers in this country, okay? So,
I know, I'm kind of worried about teachers.
So that is a problem that needs to be addressed. So what generally happens in government is when you have less people wanting to do something, they lower the standards, right? So that's what they did in the military. I was a military recruiter for 5 years. When they see that people are not wanting to join the military, the first thing they do is lower the standards to allow people to get in that probably shouldn't be getting in, but then get in and they feel like, well, we can groom them and we can train them and we can get them to the next level after the fact, right?
And you don't think you think a very strict pretest then very qualified.
I think it should be hard to become a police officer.
Harder to become.
I think it should be hard to become a police officer.
Yeah.
Why not? They're put in some very crazy situations.
And I think in that kind of field, they'd want like a challenge. Like I want to, feel like I succeeded to be here, and you really,
Yeah, no police officer wants low standards to get in because they want to work with the most competent people. Because you are talking about having each other's backs and potentially having to save someone's life and making decisions that are split second. Mm-hmm. And you want to know that the people that are working with you are smart, or have a good mind to them. So lowering the standards, I don't think anybody is for that. But this is government. This is what government does when they can't fill positions, they lower standards. That's the way it works. So unfortunately, that's the way it works. But, a lot of that times that has to do with people that are in office, like military recruiting. They just had the highest month in the last 20 years for military recruiting. And that's because we have a new president.
So
and people are proud to serve.
How does We Fund the Blue, help, or, with knowing what you know, and I think a majority of people would agree with you, especially people with an interest in it, maybe that have been avoiding it for whatever reason. I think we won't get into that part, but what can We Fund the Blue kind of help to alleviate?
Yeah, so we make monetary donations directly to underfunded police departments, and the majority of the funding that we do goes to police departments along the southern border because they are fighting off a war down there against cartels, and a lot of them are doing it with outdated weaponry, outdated vests. So a lot of the money that we use or that we donate to these departments, they use to buy new ARs, new shotguns, new racks to hold them in their vehicles, updated bulletproof vests. Those are the kinds of things that they're using the money that I'm donating them.
I don't know why I'm getting emotional that they don't have that. But see, this is why I love, I'm pretty excited. I know some people are scared and stuff, but then, I hope that they take a look at somebody like you and say, hey, we don't really need the government wasting billions of dollars when we're doing something that they shouldn't.
It's crazy.
I'm just really glad where we are, and then there's people like you, and I really, pray that we see more people step up and do this.
Well, I appreciate that.
And, get involved with you, because you've been doing philanthropy stuff since, years ago I met you, and we did that show on Palm Beach interview, and I was like, geez, we talked for 2 hours, which reminds me, this is only half, 20 minutes or so, on the Alana Show with John Rourke. We Fund the Blue, which is, I'm really, this conversation, we had the best police growing up. My dad dedicated, a fallen officer, terrible accident along 35 interstate up in Minnesota, and he dedicated, memorial and a park to him, and he was always, fire, police, veterans.
Of course.
He liked teachers, wasn't a big fan of unions. They just kind of drowned out the passion of teachers. I thought I helped a few, start little schools, which I actually hope. Let's stay on subject though. But I think in all those realms, it is a public service. It is a passionate thing, and I think they are some of the biggest leaders that we ever see. I know that the police growing up where I was, they were essentially, we looked up to them.
They're heroes. They should be looked up to.
Well, they would yell at us, too. They were at our house a few times a week, for sure. But they, 4 kids all a year apart. But they would come in, and they're like, what do you guys do? Sit everybody down. Anybody that ran got, in trouble. And then they'd say, Vanderveers, raise your hand. And we'd, and they're like, what the heck? What are you doing to your dad? He goes out of town, you embarrass him like this, and just, he does a lot for the community. And I'm just like, then, we're just like,
giving you the business.
You know how much more effective that is?
Than hearing it from your dad.
And
hearing it from a police officer. But this is their heroes.
That's the point. That's what I'm used to. I know that there are incidents where there are, bad apples, and that's what I think is unfortunate, where people have that experience because, they do save lives. And I would say and I'm sure you'd agree that they're far more saving than they are, again, because the bad is usually brought out more than the good. But I don't know. I feel like they should. How do you feel if somebody does something inappropriate, outside of, what is that called, where you can't sue them?
Qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity. And then they're a bad apple, and you had a great team. Don't you think there'd be some...
You got to weed them out. Like that, and that's up to the departments to weed these people out. Yeah.
Okay.
And they could obviously be better at doing it, but they do it, right?
I would love statistics on how they did to get into the police force, and then if there's any correlation between this quote unquote bad apples. I mean, somebody might not like their face and want to. I don't know how that. I've never worked.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
field,
there's just unfortunately in any business anywhere in the world, there's always bad apples. It's just the law of averages. It doesn't matter how much pre-qual you do on a person. There are people that are always going to get by that pre-qual and get in. Like, ask any recruiter for any job. The worst thing you can do is make a bad hire, is spend all this money and time recruiting someone, and then they get hired by this company, and then within the first 90 days you're firing them. And the recruiting company spent tens of thousands of dollars to get this person in the door, and then 90 days later they're out the door, right? And they somehow snuck past all of the questions, all of the different people. I mean, it's just the way it is, unfortunately.
That's pretty strategic.
But it happens, and it's up to the law enforcement agencies to do that, to get these bad apples out, because it does make everyone look bad. But for the most part, 99% of the people that are out there serving the public right now are doing the right thing in the right way, right? Sometimes people make stupid decisions in the heat of the moment that they wish that they could take back. A lot of times that's what it is you're charged with making a split-second decision, and a lot of times you think that your life might be at risk, and you wind up taking someone's life or severely injuring them, and maybe you find out that it was a toy gun that they pulled and not a real gun. Like, these are things that happen. It doesn't mean the person that did that is a bad apple or a bad person. They just made a bad decision under a extreme amount of stress and in a high environment for the likelihood of something negative to happen. So, it doesn't always go the right way, unfortunately. And a lot of good people pay a price for that.
Like, if you think of a kid that's younger and, there was an obvious mistake on behalf of law enforcement, to sit down and talk about it and not pretend it didn't happen or be afraid of a lawsuit, especially.
Or cover it up. And a lot of that happens a lot of times, too.
I think if there is, if that does take place, and then there's, a covering up aspect, which I think maybe there's fear in the, at this moment or whatever. I mean, I'll help protect some people or whatever, but it's you can't be covering up stuff.
No,
you
can't.
You lose community support, which I was going to get into next. I was talking to some firefighters at the polling place, and I'm like, back we used to have the fireman's ball. It was a big deal in small town Forest Lake, Minnesota. But it was we were pretty amped. We're the fireman's ball, and it was a very good turnout, and that's the community really appreciated the fire department, so they showed up and donated.
Yeah.
Or they're so fun. I can't believe they don't do them here, but I heard they do something a little. Or they do
the policeman's ball here. They do it in Jupiter. So these things happen all over the place. I just came back from a Heroes Gala in L.A., where I received an award for my work I did at the L.A. wildfires.
I want to talk about that too.
Those things happen. But I mean, overall, the overarching message I think we're trying to get to is that.
Hold on, let's go into your awards.
Yeah.
No, it's So you just got an award.
I just received an award. Yeah. No, I received one award.
You should have got 5.
Hey, I don't do it for the awards. You know what I mean? I do it because this is what I'm passionate about. I love serving. I love selfless service. I served in the Army, and one of the things with veterans is we get out of the military and we struggle to find a new mission. We struggle with what it's like taking the uniform off, especially for those that have been in for an extended period of time.
Just talking about how can you imagine, you go into a desk job after
it's brutal. I did that. That's exactly what I did.
I think that if there's any sort of, you don't have to work, it's optional what you do, and I think I actually would see some crazy, like what you're doing, is for veterans.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going about that.
So, I got out of the Army and I worked as a recruiter for a local electric company here, Florida Power and Light, right? And I was a recruiter for them, recruiting people to work on wind turbines, and I was just absolutely miserable doing it.
I don't like wind turbines.
You know what I mean? I don't like them either, but
I like geothermal.
I was making good money. But the point is that I didn't like what I was doing. And part of the reason why I didn't like what I was doing is because I've been in the Army for so long and wore the uniform for so long. Taking the uniform off and going to be an average Joe it just wasn't sitting well with me.
There was no
right?
average in John Rourke.
But I just wanted to continue to serve. And I didn't feel like my talents were being put to good use just recruiting people for a company to go work at wind turbines. At the end of the day, I didn't feel fulfilled with what I was doing.
You remember that hitting you. How long did it take for you to kind of put the plan together and then do what, where you are. I mean, you feel pretty content now, correct? I mean, you really.
I've never felt better. I feel
Amen.
like
Okay.
I feel like I'm fully putting my talents and my passions to use in the work that I do.
Yeah.
And
I feel like some people right now would just kind of feel discouraged.
Of course they do.
And they're like, "Hey, I'm stuck here. I have to do this." Well, I don't think people do. Especially seeing people like you, seeing people that I've never seen get into politics, and they're like, "I don't know anything about politics," but I'm like, "You'd be a good service person."
If you have
100%.
children and a wife and family, sometimes you have to work jobs that you don't want to work because the bills have to get paid.
So how did you make the leap, or what? How?
So
I mean,
what the impetus to me doing all of these things was President Donald Trump getting elected to office. And when he got elected to office, it instilled a sense of hope back into me and got me reinvigorated into the United States of America, right?
That's great you bring that up. I was just saying how Obama's like, hope, which, I get the
hope and change, which was a
John,
disaster.
Don't say that again.
But,
no, but anyway, but somebody actually just did it
he
through
motivated
their actions.
me.
And I feel like, and I've, I'm not a big fan. My dad's my favorite candidate. He always will be. And I think, his time was cut short in that area, but also I think it's important for new people. And I think everybody should get involved. I don't care what party you're in, and if, I despise, socialism, communism, because it kills people's, passion, purpose, and it's very rude to do to anybody. And I'll tell that story another time, because I want to talk about your awards and how people can get involved, and they definitely should. I wanted to volunteer forever, so and we'll talk about that too.
I got a lot of missions coming up.
Make it easier for me.
Yeah, I got a lot of missions coming up. We did the California wildfires mission.
I feel like Trump snapped. Like he was good at business, hung around people that he didn't, agree with for a long time, and it just kind of egged up on him. And then he's like, I've had enough. We're losing America, and kind of snapped. And I think it was anything and everything that everybody was feeling where they didn't want to get involved. They didn't feel like they mattered. They didn't feel like, even as a person, not only in the booth. And I think it kind of fired up both sides. And I actually kind of feel bad for Democrats to have to realize that, not only did they go to extreme levels as like liberal, kind of just completely squash who is an individual by accepting everybody for who they are. But
like
you go
thinking
back to
men can breastfeed and have babies, like that's I would say that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, I used to drink with Democrats and party with Republicans, and I saw in Democrats that they'd all bring what they were, solely interested in, and then want everybody on their side to get together and vote for it, which made them all look good. You're serving the people, you're giving to this person or that or this cause, and it's like, well, that's not my passion, so why don't you just start a nonprofit like John Rourke?
Yeah.
On the Alana Show, I'm super excited. I hope you come back. Am I interrupting you too? No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're fine.
You did that to me the first time when I was second.
You're good.
No, I'm kidding. No, but I just feel like, that's what they were doing. And then the Republicans are like, kind of business oriented. I'm here to lower taxes or whatnot, and fighting off that side of things. And, I thought Trump getting in was great. Romney, McCain was probably the worst years for operatives, even though, and I say, I encourage everybody to get involved in, whether campaigning, politics, pick a party. If you don't, then start your own, and don't make fun of either or on Facebook or social media if you've never joined. Actually, I think those people are scared or intimidated.
Well, you got to vote, right?
I don't
gotta get
either
out and vote.
one. Well, look up their platform and then get to the party and chat about it.
If you don't get out and vote, you don't have a say. Like, how could you talk about it if you don't even vote yourself?
Yeah, but we were so as an entrepreneur, I was discouraged since fifth grade when they shut me down, selling tangy taffies. And I feel like a lot of people like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, even I'm sure everybody will at some point, especially in socialism or communism. You don't want the bread to hit your hand before this happens, as you get tangy taffy. Like, I was selling tangy taffy in school because my dad wouldn't give me money, blah, 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 and making good money. I had cousins working below and under me, and one mom came up to my teacher, and she's like, hey, it doesn't seem the appropriate time, but I think it is, to tell this story. But I'm probably going to tell it 100 million times because I think what's going on is very, very important.
Yeah.
And I see a nonprofit as a nonprofit, but I hope you're very profitable and you keep exactly what you want so that other people look at you and say, you know what, John did what he loves and he's passionate. And then I'm sure, I think it's great. But anyway, I don't think people should judge how much money people have, and I don't think they should know about it either, because I think people give a lot more than they would. Forcefully.
The whole thing with the money is it just to provide it to law enforcement.
I'll tell the Tangy Taffy story later, but everyone essentially got Tangy Taffied and they're fed up. And even, I feel like it's a good time in America to not be scared of anything, but to actually be aware of what was taking place for, decades. And stand up and do whatever the heck you want, as long as you don't hurt anybody.
I mean, you don't get the $37 trillion in debt by people doing things the right way, right? So that money built over the course of many decades. So we have been led astray for a very long time by corrupt politicians.
Think of that number.
Who've gotten into office. It's ridiculous. The number is out of control. It's not sustainable. But at the end of the day, listen, I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I feel like I was put on this earth to do, which is to serve. And I'm going to continue to do that until I can't do that anymore. And that's just what We Fund the Blue is all about. It's not just about taking care of police officers and first responders. It's about cleaning up the country. It's about doing whatever I feel like I can do when a situation presents itself to help, whether that be tornadoes or hurricanes or wildfires or, the people crossing the border. It's not always about funding police departments, but at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like I can help, I'm going to help.
Cleaning up. I guess I want a better I think the best way to learn more about is to show up.
Yeah. Right? It'll change your life. So, you go to the southern border and you see what we do and the amount of trash that's left behind by illegal aliens crossing the border. And when you go there and you're actually seeing them cross in front of you and you're the first person they might talk to when they cross into the country illegally, I think that changes your life.
Okay, we don't have 2 hours today. So just volunteering and growth, how do people get into it?
Yeah, you can reach me at my website, makeamericacleanagain.us or wefundtheblue.com. Follow me on social media. Mainly I'm on Instagram at John J. Rourke. And those are the places where you can message me, comment on my videos.
Is there a set schedule people can go in and sign up?
Well, there will be. There will be after this gala. I'm having a gala at Mar-a-Lago this Thursday, the American Patriots Gala. We sold out Mar-a-Lago, 700 people. We're going to have we'll have Secretary Noem speaking there. President Javier Milei of Argentina will be there speaking. Matt Gaetz is the keynote speaker. So we have a lot of important people that are going to be speaking about what it is that we do and why we do it and getting more involved. So after this gala, I will obviously have more funding. I haven't even raised $100,000 over the years doing this. So
and then We Fund the Blue.
I've been doing this since 2019 is when I started with my first cleanup, which was inner city Baltimore.
What's your current? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we should do a timeline lapse. What's your goal fundraising for the next 3 months? 72 hours. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would honestly, I'd hope to raise $1 million at Mar-a-Lago. That's I don't feel like that's out of reach.
Good. Let's make it 2.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, the amount of people that I could help with money. I've done all of these things. I've done this with $0, with less than $100,000. I've been able to clean up over 130,000 pounds of trash, rescue 189 dogs from the southern border. I've donated $50,000 to law enforcement agencies. I've done so many things with such a low amount of money that I can't wait till I have some money to spend.
$2 million. I mean, I'm not even going to say hopefully. But so we will. How does We Fund the Blue allocate donations? You know what? Let's just go to. I think there should be initiative between people and police officers, which we can talk. You know what? Let's have you back on. So, and then the gala you covered and you did sell out. So
we sold out.
Stay tuned for another one.
Yep.
Maybe at
We'll be looking to do another gala next year at the same date at Mar-a-Lago next year. So we'll be having golf tournaments and fishing tournaments and all the traditional things that you see fundraisers do.
Okay.
All that stuff will be posted on the website. Our cleanups will be posted on the website. We'll be doing some along the border, San Diego, the Big Bend area of the border. We're going to be doing a cleanup in Philadelphia, inner city Kensington area.
Can people make requests for cleanups, or how do you find these areas?
So it's very easy. It's whatever the large scale cities are that are run by liberals. Those are always the worst cities. So we just target those places.
We don't get political on this.
Well, it's hard to not get political when there's people
Welcome to the Alana
sleeping all over the dang streets of this country and shooting up drugs everywhere. Those are generally in the cities that are run under Democrat control, like Chicago, like Philadelphia, like Baltimore, like New York.
And instead of a bunch of people down, up in D.C. or over wherever you're located, or in the state capital, I think the community getting involved, like what you're doing,
it's the most important part.
Without mention, I think. And I hope more people come out. And is it safe? I mean, if some people are wondering
we have the police there. So that's part of me donating to them. Police officers are there, and they're actually helping us clean up. So they're providing security as well in a lot of these places.
I think that's a great deal. especially to get along. So what's next? You're going to have a bunch of fundraisers, golf events.
We have a big...
If somebody just wants to donate, they're traveling.
They can go to the website, makeamericacleanagain.us, but our next big mission is going to be to Gitmo. We're going to be flying into Gitmo for Memorial Day weekend to throw a concert there and bring in a comedian to do a comedic performance. And the ultimate goal is to replace their golf course that they have on the island there, because it's been rated the worst golf course in the world. And the soldiers and now obviously the Border Patrol and ICE members that are stationed there don't deserve the worst of anything. So we're partnering with some local golfers
that's like the
to
coolest
redo their
thing
golf
I've
course.
ever heard. Have you ever heard FEMA say something like that?
No, FEMA is a disaster.
I mean, not like
they're supposed to respond to disasters, but they are actually a disaster. But not
I'm
for
not
long.
trying to be mean to FEMA. Are they still a thing?
Yeah, they're a thing, and they will be back.
I think it's a good idea, but private. I mean, even privatized. I don't know nonprofit.
Yeah, I can do far more than any government agency can do.
We can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, just give us your money to fund. Okay, but I wholeheartedly believe that would be excellent, especially if people
churches do it. All the mega churches have disaster relief teams that do a far better job than FEMA in most cases. I
want to see more. I should start. I have to volunteer more. I'm like, everybody volunteer.
It's awesome. Volunteering is a great thing. I mean, it makes you feel great at the end of the day when you're done cleaning up an area that was totally destroyed, like we just did in L.A. clean up 750 pounds of trash on one block.
That's like fun too.
Of course it is. It's like most people take their guys' trips to go golfing or go to Vegas. My guys' trips are to cities to go clean up trash. So that's my version of a guy's trip, and I bring my guys with me, and we chip in. Instead of going to a bar and getting hammered on a Saturday, I will go out and clean up trash. I'll be okay without getting hammered.
I want to kind of start a prayer meeting.
Yes, start something.
John, you see what you do?
Start
John
something.
Rourke.
You should start something. Everyone should start something.
I'm going to start. Let me get the show out of the way first. And go from there. I think a prayer meeting would be fun. Okay, so what's next? We got that. A bunch of events, a bunch of donations. Can people just go on your website and donate?
Absolutely, yeah.
And the website again?
MakeAmericaCleanAgain.us or WeFundTheBlue.com.